Beacon Hills, nothing extraordinary ever seemed to happen, until one night under the full moon changed everything. Scott McCall is a typical high school sophomore, trying to balance homework, lacrosse tryouts, and life as a normal teenager. We see Scott struggling with asthma, trying to keep up, and dreaming of making the lacrosse team. Scott hears some strange noise outside his house, and decided to take matters into his own hands to check on it. Enter Stiles, sarcastic, loud, and fiercely loyal. When Stiles learned about a half-buried body in the woods, he didn't wait for anyone else, and he urged Scott to come with him to look for the body.
We're going.
Deep in the woods, Stiles leads Scott, who starts struggling with his asthma. They both came across a lot of cops searching for the missing body, which gets Stiles exactly knowing that they are definitely close. In the process of his excitement, he hurries forward and left Scott behind. As they continued running deep in the woods, Stiles has been caught by his father, the Sheriff Stilinski, which makes Scott run. While walking in the woods, something moves in the shadows. Something strange. Suddenly, the attack. Scott is thrown to the ground with deer running past him viciously. Scott starts searching for his inhaler with the bit of light he can get, and suddenly he sees something so terrifying. A dead body, cut in half. Out of fear, he stumbles back into a harsh fall, which leads to him seeing something even more terrifying. A wolf. The animal with great speed and sharp fangs run towards Scott, who stumbled back. The animal bites Scott viciously, which made Scott scream in so much agony. He then gets up quickly and flees for his own survival. The next day, Scott at school tells Stiles what happened in the woods, the bite he got, and tells him he was bitten by a wolf, which Stiles didn't believe because there were no wolves in California for the past 60 years. In class, Scott feels different. Sounds became so loud for him to bear. His sensitivity was so high, and he could not understand what was happening. His hearing later tunes to a girl who was sitting from a distance, making a call with her parents about her first day in school, which spikes his interest.
Okay, I gotta go. Love ya.
He followed the footsteps of the girl until she got into the class. She steps into the class and was introduced, while Scott was so busy being fascinated by her beauty. At lacrosse practice, while Stiles and Scott get set, Scott's attention is being drawn by Allison, who came to watch with Lydia, who Stiles has a crush on sitting beside her. At lacrosse practice, Scott performs beyond his limits. Faster, stronger, sharper. The coach, teammates, and even Jackson are stunned. Jackson, who is the captain of the lacrosse team, doesn't seem pleased with this and challenges Scott. Who with no difficulty gets the ball. After, they head back into the woods. Scott wanted to prove to Stiles that he saw the dead body, and also what happened to him was true. While making their search, they came across someone, Derek Hale. Derek Hale, who is no stranger to the supernatural, silent, haunted, dangerous. He knows more than he says. He watches them with intense gaze from a distance, and told them to leave, and he left without another word. And unbeknownst to Scott and Stiles, Derek already knows that something is out there. At the animal clinic where Scott works, he experienced something strange. First, he took off the bandage that covered the bite, and discovered there wasn't any sign of bite. He also had another encounter when feeding the animals. All cats and dogs began to react strangely, barking, hitting all sides of their cages. This took Scott by surprise, and he decided to leave. What he didn't expect was to see Allison all scared and panicking. She later explained to him that she accidentally got a dog hit while she was driving in the rainy night. Scott took the dog inside to check him up, while Allison changed from her drenched clothes.
What? I see anything?
Scott and Allison both had some moments during their time in the clinic, which sparked something between them. And Scott had a smile on his face all night. Scott woke up from his sleep and suddenly found himself in the woods. He could not understand what was happening as he walks confusingly. Suddenly he sees something in the mist, more like an animal with glowing red eyes. This causes Scott to run as fast as he can while being chased by the animal. He later finds and escapes and jumps into the water, which turns out to be a pool in someone's house. At school, Jackson, who has been suspicious of Scott's ability on the lacrosse team, questions Scott on how he became so good and what he was on. He promises to find out Scott's secret and to expose him. Stiles, on the other hand, who has spent days locked up in his, was making researches on everything relating to Scott's abilities, linking it with that of werewolves. And more they can do. Scott comes in and Stiles began explaining to Scott about all his research, which offends Scott, and he did something he could not believe, almost hurting his best friend. Scott and Allison both decided to go to a party hosted by Lydia, but Scott did not expect to find someone unexpected, Derek Hale, who vanishes in thin air. While Scott was having a moment with Allison on the dance floor, he began to feel strange, which leads him to leave the party. He went into his home, tried to calm himself down from this feeling, but it wasn't helping. He began breathing deeply, claws coming out from his hands, fangs coming out from his mouth, and his eyes glowed. Stiles comes in to help his best friend, but Scott warns him to stay away, but Stiles did not listen. This makes Scott to sprint out of his window, and with the effect of the full moon, he began turning a werewolf. He runs into the woods while chasing after the scent of Allison, thinking she was in the woods. Stiles hurries to Allison's house to tell her mom that Allison is not safe, but to his surprise, Allison was just home. Scott, still running in the woods chasing after Allison's scent, came across her jacket, but she wasn't there. He began to hear a voice taunting him, and out of nowhere he was grabbed and stumbled by Derek Hale. Derek senses that they are not alone in the woods, and advises Scott to run. They began running by. Unfortunately, Scott got shot by an arrow by a hunter. Derek comes to the aid of Scott and fights off the hunters. Him and Scott ran in the woods and later came to a stop. They began arguing with Scott, accusing Derek that he was the one who bit him. Derek began to tell Scott that it wasn't so bad to have the abilities he had, and he should take these abilities more as a gift, and Scott was going to need him to control these abilities. The next day at school, Scott begins to apologize and explain to Allison his reason for leaving her at the party. Allison could not get his explanation, but she accepted his apology. While having their moment, Allison's dad came to pick her up, but unknown to Scott, he did not expect that the father of his girlfriend was in fact the hunter who tried to kill him. Next time on Teen Wolf, secrets unravel. Danger grows. And the line between hunter and hunted gets thinner.